In 1890, the automotive industry invented. The automobiles of that time were strictly vehicles that were built strictly for the rich. They were way too expensive for the average person, and there was just no way that anyone else could afford them. In 1908, Henry Ford came to open the doors of the Ford Motor Company. He had an envision and the attitude that he was going to build a car that everyone could buy and and use no matter where they were. So he opened his doors and he started building in 2000, or I mean 1910. He started building a Model T. Model T is the most popular car ever built. The Model T sold more vehicles during its era than any other car. Ford was trying to innovate ways to make the car cheaper. He figured that if he was to come up with new ways to make it work, he could drop the price. First thing he found was an assembly line. He figured out a way to build an assembly line where men and women would work in the same areas as the car moved past them, and that way the everyone was technical in their one particular job, putting parts together on these vehicles. Because of it, the materials that were used became better. These vehicles were designed for on road, off road, any place you wanted to take them. At that time, there was only about 18,000 miles of road in the U.S., and so uh, the uh, the car had to be built to withstand anything and to be simple enough that anybody could work on it at any time to take care of any issues. So Henry Ford, between 1910 and 1927, built 20, built 15 million of these Model Ts. Makes it the It was just an astounding number of cars it sold during this time. But Henry Ford was able to drop the price because of all the innovations and things that he did throughout the years. Was able to The most expensive Model T was 95, and the cheapest one was $260. That's how big of a change they were able to make in building these vehicles during this time. During this time, there was also another manufacturer um, that was trying to get into business called William Durant, which started the General Motors Corporation, which he did it more of as an investment company. He wasn't interested in building cars or selling cars. He hated the smell. He hated the idea of car. He thought they were too noisy, didn't really want nothing to do with them, but realized it was a good investment. And so he was able to work it out with several other car companies, and he bought like 30 of them and joined them all together. He wanted the whole industry to come together as one, but Henry Ford said, no, I'm not going to do that. I can do better on my own. And he did. In World War II, Ford built airplanes and other military stuff, and so Ford was the first one to create public transportation for airlines. In the 60s was the muscle car era. Ford was building these muscle cars. They were super fast. NASCAR was getting mad because they were winning too many races. All the other manufacturers were complaining. And so Ford had to, so they started changing the rules. And then, of course, um, it was getting too expensive for gas and stuff. And so all these manufacturers had to start cutting back, and regulations on them started changing. And so, but then in the 60s, the country was wanting to be the first to the moon. So Ford had a company called Philco that built all of the navigation, electronic stuff, and command center for the Apollo missions in the 60s and early 70s. And then later on, we had a recession in 2008. In this recession, Ford was the only manufacturer to have the money or the stability to keep the company up on their own. General Motors went bankrupt. So did Chrysler. Chrysler was bought out by Fiat. General Motors got a bailout from the government instead of going under, where all of us Ford guys would have just loved the company to go away. But we had a president that felt otherwise and thought, well, too many jobs would go away. Whereas Chrysler and Ford would have picked that up easily and kept the things going. So Ford Motor Company has done more for the automotive industry than any other industry or any other car manufacturer out there. Ford has built more F-150s and sold more F-150s than any other car manufacturer. It's been the best-selling truck ever. They sell more than any other manufacturer, and their trucks are their pickups sell 3-to-1 over any other manufacturer's pickup. Ford is out there for the consumer and for the individual. He's not out there for an investment group. So go to your nearest Ford dealer, buy a Ford, support the economy, and enjoy that Ford. Thank you.